Good afternoon. If you've just joined us, we're about to start our Wheels and Watts meeting, Powering EV Charging for Communities. It's February 17th at 2:04. We're going to go ahead. Let's see if I can advance my own slides. All right, my name is Lisa Lee. Hold on, let me see something. And I work at EasyRide. We're the Transportation Management Association that serves Bergen, Monmouth, Urban Essex, Urban Passaic, and Urban Union County. And we have a program called EV Accelerator to help with encouraging EV adoption, the installation of EV chargers for public and workspace access for employees, and also for people who live in multi-unit dwellings. This is one of EasyRide's programs. We also work on bike and pedestrian safety. We have our Easy Ride for Life program that provides on-demand transportation for those who can no longer drive. We also have shuttles that help with last mile transportation or first mile transportation to transit. And we also help to encourage the use of carpools and van pools. So we have a packed agenda today, lots of good speakers, and so I don't want to take too much longer. We want to give a special shout out and welcome to Cap Short from GOTrenton, who's going to talk to us today about their EV rideshare. And we're really excited to hear him speak. And then I've asked Stan to kind of go over the pros and cons of curbside or pole-mounted charging versus parking lot or parking deck charging. I think that's an interesting consideration that many municipalities and counties need to think about. And then we have all of our EV expert and friends, George and Kate, who are going to talk about other technical aspects, grants, incentives, and how to save money. And Sean Castellano from RideWise is going to talk about EVAL certification. So an investment in sustainability in workplace charging improves community health. It reduces operating costs, increases property values, attracts talents and positions that your organization and positions your organization as a leader. And transportation is one of the largest sources of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. And unfortunately, local air pollution from tailpipe emissions has a direct impact on human health, causing fatalities for those who have, chronic lung diseases. It also helps to reduce lifespan for about 8 months and has many cognitive impacts, most especially on children, that can also play a role in early dementia and some of the neurological conditions such as autism and ADHD. And communities who live closest to areas with high traffic or airports or diesel engine train tracks are often the most affected by transportation pollution. So driving electric vehicles can definitely be part of the solution. It's an emissions-free form of transportation. A record number of EVs were sold in the third quarter before the federal subsidies and incentives were terminated. We also saw that used EV sales in the last quarter of 2025 really increased by 14% over the year prior. And a great thing is that many of the auto manufacturers are coming out now with lower priced EVs rather than, a lot of the vehicles that we saw introduced in the beginning were very, very expensive, not affordable for most people. But They're wonderful vehicles, and less maintenance needed and no gas required, which is another great way for people to save money. There are many barriers. I'm happy to say that the first barrier listed here, fear of new technology, is definitely reducing. EVs have become much more commonplace. Um, People might not have own them. Not everybody owns them, but a lot of people have taken a ride at least in them. So I think that's helping to reduce the fear of uptake. Again, there are no more federal tax rebates, unfortunately, but the people who are really maybe have the hardest time with EV adoption are those who don't have access to home charging. In other words, people who don't have like a garage or a home where they can install their own charger. Maybe they are renting an apartment or a townhouse and they don't have access to chargers. So many more chargers are needed to help provide that access so that the uptake can go forward. And so now one of those things that can be done is to provide more workplace charging. Um, Even if people don't have that access at home, they could charge their own EV at work if it was available. So that's one thing we really want to encourage to happen. 78% of American commuters drive to work and park their vehicles for approximately 8 hours a day. So it's really a lost opportunity. And now I'm going to introduce my colleague, Sean Castellano, who's going to take it over from here.
All right. Thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate it. And a great introduction. So, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Sean Castellano. I am the Sustainable Transportation Specialist here at RideWise. I started in November of 2025, so just coming up on about 3.5 to 4 months. And I helped our organization achieve the EVAL Bronze certification. If you could go to the next slide, please. So RideWise, as Lisa stated, is one of the 8 TMAs in New Jersey. We service most of Somerset County, as denoted on the dark blue and about the central Jersey area of the map. And what we do is basically connect people and businesses to safe and sustainable travel. And again, similar to Easy Ride, we've done this via our various programming efforts. Bike Connect, providing bikes to former homeless and other underprivileged individuals who need a way to get to work. College Connect, in partnership with Raritan Valley Community College, providing tickets to county buses and other forms of travel in order for students to get to RVCC at a very either low cost or free. We had done many in-school and after-school bike and pedestrian safety programs, and with the addition of my role on the staff, starting up EV initiatives. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And one of those initiatives is the EVAL certification, and that stands for the Electric Vehicle Adoption Leadership Certification. It is the national employer, really the premier EV readiness certification in the country. It's sponsored by the United States Department of Energy. And as mentioned in the bottom right-hand corner, it is administered by Fourth Mobility. And just a quick note, in the upper right-hand corner of the screen is a QR code. If you'd like to learn more about the EVAL certification, it links to the website. And what the EVAL certification does is oh, skipped a little bit. If you could go back one more. Thank you. The EVAL certification promotes cleaner commutes. So it shows your community and other employers in the area what you can really put into action with sustainability goals written down and achieved. And it provides a roadmap to adopting and expanding EV charging, so especially focused on workplace charging. This certification is also LEED aligned. It accounts for 2 points on the 2 points for that LEED certification, and hopefully in the future, looking toward points for the Sustainable Jersey certification. And ultimately, with other employers and other eval sites that are certified and organized and perhaps at different levels, you can network with other EV champions and accelerate your EV adoption in your area and at your workplace. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So I just want to mention a few of the benefits before we get into the nitty-gritty of what is required for the certification, because why would we do this certification? Let's talk about some of the perks. So you have it's a national certification. So there's a national presence on the EVAL website and in EVAL media and newsletters. You're able to have a nice certificate for your office, and as mentioned here, online listings. And you get to participate in EVAL roundtable work groups. So there's a lot of collaboration and communication going on with many other companies, nonprofits, governments, with regards to electric vehicle adoption. As you can see in the middle of the slide, there are four levels of the certification. There is platinum, gold, silver, and bronze. Starting with bronze, you only need 15 points on the certification matrix, which we'll talk about in a second. Silver is about 40, gold is 55, and platinum is about 75. And ultimately, a bronze level certification is very easily achievable as long as you are engaging your employees and taking a look into your current HR policies, seeing what can be easily changed on a micro level and then moving into a macro level. And ultimately, these certifications, again, aside from the levels themselves, they transform your current commitments and company practices of sustainability into an official recognition. So it's a very easily achievable once employees and employers put their minds to it. So if we go to the next slide, please. So let's talk about eligibility and pricing. So who can obtain the EVAL certification? Almost any company and organization. So any corporate, government, so thinking municipal and county governments, as well as any nonprofits, tribal organizations, all industries, all sizes, whether you have perhaps EV charging or not at your work site, based on the points breakdown. The only exception is basically fleet vehicle charging companies exclusively. So that is the main exception. But other than that, any company, any nonprofit, and any government entity can apply. And especially for more than one worksite, as we see below in looking at our base price. So that is a one-time fee for the certification. So it is sometimes cost prohibitive to nonprofits and government organizations that maybe cannot weather that cost. But as we'll see in the next slide in a second, there are some discounts that you can achieve very easily. And just a note, for more than one work site, there's additionally a small fee. But again, these fees can be reduced greatly with certain discounts. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So all of these discounts here are stackable if you qualify for more than one category. Again, as a nonprofit ourselves, RideWise, we were able to have the 25% off. So I'll just read these off very quickly. If you are a minority or a woman-owned business, you get the certification for free. If you're a government entity and or a nonprofit, you're able to get 25% off certification. If you are a fourth or best workplaces for commuter member, you have a 15% off. And if you attended this webinar today, which all of you have, for those work sites who are not certified yet, you get an additional 20% off. So again, these are very easily stackable, very easily reduce your price and your overhead for this certification. If you could go to the next slide, please. So just looking into some of these certification criteria. So the first bullet point, as I'd mentioned prior, is employee engagement. You're increasing their knowledge of EVs through presentations and lunch and learns themselves, and also just options of mobility. Is there, bike parking? Is there EV parking? Are there certain things? Are there sustainable goals being met? And that's another part of the planning and evaluation. So what are your sustainability goals for the organization? Are there policies and things in place to support your current commitments? Additionally, there are mobility incentives, so policies to support alternative commuting. So this is where you would speak to an HR or an executive team talking about increasing alternative commute options for employees, any forms of micromobility, such as e-bikes, scooters, bikes, any form of electric vehicles. In addition, EV charging, of course, access to EV charging in the workplace. And with partnerships and other sustainability programs, if you as a company have partnered with any other local governments or companies to get EV charging at a reduced rate, free rate, or just a partnership in general, or another program that enhances EV adoption, those can certainly count for many, many points on your certification. So those are the five main areas of criteria. So if you could go to the next slide, please. And then talking about assistance from TMAs, such as RideWise. Um, every TMA in New Jersey can help you out with EV adoption strategies, and of course, alternative commute education and programming. In the little picture I have to the right here, this is from our Bike Connect program where we were able to supply um, a certain individual with a bike to get to his work, and he was able to pass it on to others in need, and ultimately just boost alternative commutes. You know, he couldn't have a car, so he was able to bike to work, and he was able to help others in that way. So TMAs can help EV adoption strategies and just micro mobility options for any company that needs assistance with that, or any municipality. And just a quick worthy of note is Easy Ride's additional guidance. So there are certain partners for the EVAL certification. When the certification first came out, Easy Ride is the New Jersey state partner. So Easy Ride provides point breakdowns of certification questions, a planning spreadsheet for certification, which greatly helped RideWise in identifying alternative commute programs and those sustainability goals and initiatives that we already had in place and that we just needed to kind of put a name to. They also provide templates. So, for example, an employee mobility survey, how do you get to work, and are there ways that the employer can improve the employee's satisfaction with current commute options? And additionally, technical assistance with certification and discounts. So, learning how to kind of stack those discounts together, what is the pricing, and also if you have more than one work site, Easy Ride does a great job at helping out with those technical aspects. If you could go to the next slide, please. This is the Charge at Work workplace charging program. This is sponsored or partnering with Fourth Mobility. So if you take a look at the QR code on the right-hand side of the screen, the pledge to charge to work. So that is a non-binding pledge to just say that we're willing as an employer to install EV chargers at your workplace, and that earns you 1 point towards your hopefully bronze EVAL certification. And additionally, there are other resources on the site, such as grants and surveys and best practice guides in terms of HR policies and other overall policies for the company. And then there is a project builder portal. So if you are interested in obtaining EV charging for your site, that is a free resource that you can use to design EV spaces, kind of play around with things and your site's capabilities. And there are guides with contractors, timelines, cost estimates. It's a really, really useful portal if you're willing to look into workplace charging soon. And hopefully, with the other speakers on the call, you'll get an insight into the other technical capabilities. If you could go to the next slide, please. And ultimately, you can join other certified sustainability leaders. So as you see on the screen, there are about 4 or 5 TMAs currently certified. Easy Ride and RideWise are 2, and then Keep Middlesex Moving, as well as Avenues in Motion. And there are many other townships, healthcare organizations, nonprofits, many, many, many different organizations that you can become a part of this group and network with them and share best practices and ultimately, join in overall sustainability together. So I think with that, I will hand it off to Kep Short. So thanks for listening to my portion of the presentation.
Thanks, Sean. That was truly helpful. I'll touch on this later in my presentation, but Lisa and Stan at Easy Ride were extremely helpful in IELTS getting EVAL certified at the end of 2025. So it is a helpful process both for the perks, but also for some good self-evaluation and to get your company sort of focused on where it wants to go as far as EV charging. Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kep Short. It's a picture of me looking a little more serious than I really am, but I'm the director of GOTrenton, which is an EV rideshare that is created by ISLES. ISLES is a sustainability nonprofit that's been serving Trenton for over 40 years. And we provide all-electric, on-demand community rideshare service in Trenton and have been up since 2023. Next slide, please. I want to tell you a little about one more slide, please. That's us. One more slide. A little bit about our history and why we are doing what we're doing, and then I'll talk a little about our EV challenges specifically. But at ISLES, we view transportation as a very key social determinant of health. And in Trenton, we recognized some years ago that we were facing a dual challenge. That one, we were facing a mobility gap because 30% of households in the city of Trenton do not own a vehicle or have access to a vehicle on a regular basis. And over 27% of our residents live below the poverty line. And at the same time, we see an environmental crisis that's been forming in Trenton for years. The city of Trenton accounts for 25% of all asthma-related emergency room visits. Yet it accounts for 25% of the county's population, but over 75% of ER visits to the county's hospitals, which is a staggering difference, disproportional. So we're seeing that at the same time. And so if you'll forward to the next slide, please. We launched with the idea of tackling those two problems at the same time. We launched GOTrenton in 2023, and we wanted to provide safe, affordable, emission-free transportation to our residents. So think of GOTrenton as Uber or Lyft, essentially, with rides hailed on an app, but with some key differences. One is that our rides are shared, so you might have multiple rides sharing the same vehicle, going to the same general location or from the same general location. Our fares are a fraction of Uber and Lyft's fares, and we'll go over that later. We are pure ride, essentially, which is far from Uber or Lyft ride you're going to get. Our drivers are all permanent W-2 employees with job protections and benefits, which we're proud of. And all our vehicles are 100% electric all the time with no tailpipe emissions. Next slide, please. Our journey into EV infrastructure as we were starting up was a steep learning curve, I'll say. We initially launched with an ambitious vision for car sharing and community vans as well, but funding realities forced us to pivot and focus a little more exclusively on the microtransit model, powered by our transportation vendor, Circuit. And the charging component provided our most significant learning opportunities. One of the challenges was we had major construction delays at our permanent headquarters for this GOTrenton project. And so we were forced to soft launch essentially from a temporary location. We were literally charging our vehicles using extension cords and not chargers, which was a method that was neither efficient nor scalable nor fun, I'll say. And we also started with these little gem shuttles that you see in these two larger pictures here. They were eye-catching, they were cute, but they were low-speed vehicles, so they couldn't access highways that were bisecting our service area. They had limited battery range, and they had no air conditioning, which made for some long summers for our drivers and our riders. And they had those charging issues. They had charging issues in cold weather that complicated our daily operations. So our ability to be consistent was not good early on. And we encountered significant delays getting our chargers installed, which I'll tell you about in a second, but mostly due to permitting and plan approval that we weren't expecting. We were leasing property from the state of New Jersey, still are, for this headquarters and these chargers. And the state required multiple redrawings of our plans. They required electrical and structural specs that required us hiring civil and electrical engineers. We got it all done, but it took longer than I thought. And I wanted to just show you some of the pictures of what that looked like. So whoever is the person with the power of the slides here, you can sort of kind of slowly move through the next few slides as I'm talking. They're just pictures of us digging up net. We leased a small corner of a parking lot and had to do some trenching. We had to pull up old concrete and set up the space for our chargers to go in. As of course we had to get asphalt and dirt hauled off. As you can see, we're starting to put in our circuit panel and meter box here, transformer spaces, and then it starts to take shape. These were our level 2 pads before the chargers went in. Yeah, and keep on going. and 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 uh I'll go back one slide if you don't mind. I will say we had the good fortune of connecting with PSE&G, our utility provider, early in the process, and they were able to get out actually quite quickly and get electric hooked up once we had all the hardware in. And we also across the street from one of the fire stations in Trenton. So one day when PSE&G was there, half their fire department came out and wanted to learn about our chargers and EVs. So we had a little impromptu like tutorial on vehicle charging and the benefits of EVs. So it was a nice little opportunity to do a little impromptu education there. You can keep on going with the slides, please. This is what our level 2 chargers look like on the right, and then our sort of control panels and circuit boards on the left. If you forward it again, you'll see our high-speed chargers that are part of the same site. Yeah, those are 2 high-speed chargers. These are open 24/7 to the public, and we use them as well for our GOTrenton vehicles, all at the same site. One more slide, if you don't mind. That's them a little more close up. We got All Flow Chargers, which is a Canadian EV solutions company. So I'm going to stop on this slide for a second. I'll say when we were, what I feel like the lessons are we learned in getting a headquarters set up and getting charging set up were these 2 things. One, and this first one goes without saying, but allow a lot of time for plan approval and permits because you need some municipalities or some states will scoot that on through, and sometimes you hit a snag, and just count on delays. So get started early with that, I would say, and find yourself a good civil engineer for drawing the plans. And anticipate that they're going to need some specifics, and particularly state of New Jersey was looking for electrical specs and for structural specs to make sure our chargers weren't going to electrocute anyone or get blown over in a storm and knock out somebody's car. We engaged our local utility, PSC&G, early in the process, and I tried to get cell numbers for people and who was in charge, and just made a good positive connection early on, and that got the process moving quickly later down the line, the actual connection process with the utility, and so we were grateful for that. It made all the difference that we had a contractor who was well vetted, who had a history of doing great EV installation work, EVSE installation work. And I'm happy to give out references if you're looking. We used INF Associates, and they were fantastic. Factor in time for weather and construction delays. This happens, of course. We were constructing mostly in the spring of last year, so we did get some rain days and that sort of thing. And when you're drawing your plans, remember that you're likely going to need to factor in ADA or American Disabilities Act access. So that's largely going to involve allowing space around the parking spaces, allowing good access to the chargers, having your having your parking spaces on pretty level ground. They can only be a certain degree of slope involved, so you got to sometimes do some grading, and you have proper signage up too. So again, we engaged our civil engineer heavily in making sure that we were compliant with all of that. Next slide, please. The results were that we now have 4 level 2 chargers at our Isles office in Hamilton, at our administrative office. Those have ADA access out there as well. They're used primarily by employees who work at the building, which there are several different employers at that large facility. And so those chargers are used pretty much every day. Actually, every day they're used. They're open to the public as well, 24/7. And at our GOTrenton headquarters, we have 4 level 2 chargers that are just for GOTrenton within our secured parking area. And then we have 2 high-speed chargers that are available to the public. We use them, but they're also open to the public 24/7. Those are also used daily, which we're thankful for. We charge what the market rate is. The level 2 chargers are 30 cents per kilowatt hour, and the DCFCs are 50 cents per kilowatt hour, which seems to be the going rate around. And we were able to get both our GOTrenton site and our admin site EVAL certified, which we were thankful for and excited about. Great. Yeah. Next slide, please. I'll say the turning point for our charging operations came this past year when we finally opened our new permanent headquarters for the on-demand rideshare last May. And so we have these dedicated 6 level 2 and high-speed chargers. We replaced our GEMs with Kia Niro EVs as well. which has allowed us to fully access the entire coverage area at greater speed and reliability. And our new headquarters provides 16 secure parking spaces and storage and an office area for our fleet. So it took a while for it to come together, but we're thrilled that it did, and it's made us better at what we do. Next slide, please. So a little more about GOTrenton here. Um, you can see that we've now expanded to cover the entire city of Trenton. We expanded last year to do this, and we have traveled over 46,000 passenger miles in that last year. Next slide, please. Accessing all these key locations. And so by streamlining charging at our central hub, we've maintained a 4.8 star rating out of 5. Our drivers have, which we're very proud of, and we've successfully provided in the last year over 45,000 trips to over 60,000 passengers. There's some things we're working on for sure. We're looking to get our wait times down. We're looking to get our connection rates up, but it's mostly problems that have to do with having a lot of demand and some limited capacity. So I'll talk about what our plans are to address that going forward. But in this process, we've saved almost 6,000 gallons of gas by removing cars that are internal combustion vehicles from the road and carpooling. And we're thrilled about that. We think it's going to help contribute to better health outcomes in the city over time. Next slide, please. We've also removed the cost barrier for our most vulnerable residents. We have, through our hotspot program, offering free rides for all users to and from really essential emergency service areas like the Trenton Area Soup Kitchen. If you're trying to get to or from any one of these, your ride with us is always free. No matter what day or time it is or how many people are in your ride, you can get there or from there free. We want these resources to always be accessible to folks. Next slide, please. So before I wrap it up, we're looking to meet demand by scaling up. We've secured new funding from the Department of Environmental Protection to add 6 more vehicles to our fleet. And what this doesn't say is we're also purchasing 2 more passenger vans as well, which will take our fleet from 8 vehicles to 16 vehicles, doubling our vehicle size, which is going to be key. Next slide as well, please. And we're also going to be expanding our service area in the coming months. Right now, we're the city of Trenton, but we're going to be expanding to Hamilton and Ewing, the 2 red areas you see sort of on the right side of this map, 2 parts of Ewing and Hamilton that contain some high-density residential areas as well as shopping and healthcare centers. So we're excited that that's on its way. So we've got more vehicles, more coverage area. We'll be ramping up our driver pool as well, and all of that to try and deliver more and more reliable rides to everyone. Next slide, please. And so the basics of our operation are we're a 7-day-a-week operation, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week, and limited hours on the weekends. The fare is only $2 per ride, regardless of how many passengers you have. And you have to be 16 or older to ride unaccompanied or to hail a ride yourself. And of course, we follow state laws regarding requirements around car seats for children and infants. And that's kind of it. You can go to the last slide, please. If you're interested in learning more about our journey from inception to rollout, I'm happy to share a copy of our intensive case study via email with you. Just shoot me an email after this meeting. I'll be glad to share. And I'm really proud of what we're doing here. GOTrenton is this is a QR code to our website if you want to learn more. And I think this project that's moving from pilot to permanent really proves that when you make clean energy and transportation truly available to all people, you don't just move people around, you move the needle itself on equity and health. And so again, appreciate your invitation to be here today. Happy to answer questions at the end of the presentation or via email later, and appreciate the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Cap, for your wonderful presentation. It was really enlightening, and I'm glad that GOTrenton is growing and bringing more electric vehicles in your community. So next slide. So I've been asked to deliver a presentation about street side charging and compare it to the parking lot. And so what I typically do when I have a task like that, I dig into the New Jersey EVA slide decks and look into for inspiration. So I found that I was actually developing research about it since 2019, and then amended in 2022. So my first slide is actually a kind of question: where would you locate your best place to charge? Right? And it depends on whom you ask, whose perspective, right? So when you consider vehicle perspective, the vehicle wants to feel safe. The vehicle wants to be pampered. So the best place is garage. And specifically for electric vehicle, if you are in a garage, the battery feels really happier because it doesn't have to be heated all the time. It doesn't overheat, etc. For owners prefer to have convenience. They prefer to park in areas where it is nearest to the door. And even if they do have garage, they sometimes choose to park on driveway or on street because it's just easier to pull in and pull out. Owners may choose that even if they have garage, they still want to not to use it for cars, but for something else. So what is the perspective from the EV charging station? EV charging wants to be close to the source of energy. So again, parking garage or close to the panel, that's pretty much where it wants to be, because if we want to deploy charging in the parking lot, then most of the time we need to do trenching and lay out wires. So these are the three different perspectives, and what determines ultimately where to go, please next slide, is the actual owner. This is the decision maker. So here we have, you can go to the next slide now. We have a simple table with comparison of charger placement. And the first row is really a kind of outlier here, because we are talking about being privileged of having private garage or driveway. Obviously, this is what we always recommend is the best place to charge. And that's because it's more affordable to install. And for level 1, it could be actually free as long as you already have a dedicated level 1 power outlet. And the electricity is very affordable because you pretty much bundle the cost of charging with your home utility bill. And this is the cheapest electricity you can buy. It is obviously reliable and convenient because it's just at your fingertips at home. Obviously, the disadvantage is that about 30%, about 1/3 of populations, they do not have access to that because they just don't own private home. The other two charging locations, parking lot and street parking, are here kind of on purpose. I'm skipping the fast charging on route because this is separate beast. It's a separate scenario. But the focus here is really on affordability and what is the difference when it comes to charging as you sleep, pretty much from the viewpoint of resident. So the parking lot, it is typically, it has better safety versus street parking, right? The street parking, there's lots of traffic. It's a foot traffic and vehicular traffic. So when you have a court, it could be trip hazard, and vehicle can hit your charging station or it can hit your vehicle. So that's the point. But for security, for example, it's kind of vice versa, because high trafficked area is less likely to be subject of cutting the charging cord or things like that, because it is a highly visible area. So this is safety security, but how about the cost of implementation? So when this needs to be done after the property is built, then that's when the cost is pretty high, because you have to trench towards the parking lot. So it's expensive to install, and because the charging stations have to have ability for revenue collection, they have to be network, and that costs also money. So they're expensive to install, expensive to operate. They're also prone to vandalism. We have seen those cases, and requires lots of stakeholders, including multi-unit dwelling, the property owners or homeowner association, which is particularly difficult to deal with. On the other hand, we have established incentives from BPU and DEP, and we'll talk about it later. The street charging, it's pretty much conditioned to the fact that you have poles, utility poles. And when you have them, then the idea of trenching is gone because you just bring the wiring from the top. So it is cheaper, it's less expensive to implement, and that brings the overall cost down. The downside is that we, at least in New Jersey, have regulatory hurdles, because this is ideal scenario for the utility, because utilities, they own the poles and they could just bring the wires down, install the charging station and say, hey, people, come and charge directly from our bill. Well, that's not how it works. It's by regulation, it's required that utilities cannot sell direct. They have to first create account for someone, and that someone can provide a charging. So this is something that Sustainable Jersey is actually now working on. They want to have a case studies, and this is very exciting. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I want to mention some details when it comes from the World Resources Institute. It is the report that was released in 2022. And so I was talking about the installation cost savings. So they calculated it can be 55 to 70% cheaper compared to ground-mounted chargers. The other advantage is that it's prioritizing areas with least access to public charging, right? And it can help ensure more equitable distribution of chargers. You can imagine ride-hailing or car sharing service that you don't need necessarily to own the vehicle, but you park it where the charger is, plug it in, and the next user can use it. These chargers can be easily relocated because they do not have dedicated pedestal. The pedestal is the pole, the utility pole. So these are very adaptable. Speaking of security, they can be actually installed several feet up so that they are prone against vandalism. No more cord cutting, right? The pole-mounted chargers, they save valuable sidewalk space because they do not add additional bulk device on alongside the sidewalk. So they only use what it's already there, which is the pole. They are generally very suitable for US cities. Another rationale here is that, speaking of street lamps, they utilize high efficiency light bulbs today, but they were wired for less efficiency, which means that they have extra capacity today, and that can be used for EV charging. So that's these are the advantages. Next slide, please. And there are lots of examples around the world. I wish I could show you the examples from Europe. But in this case, if we can go back to the first example from United States, is Melrose in Massachusetts and Brooklyn, Oregon. And you can see how on the left, the charger is positioned higher up. On the right side, it is more ground mounted, just attached to the utility pole. These examples are from California. You can see how well positioned and well labeled on the utility pole are the notice, hey, here is EV charging. So these are cases from California. Having said that, if you wish to get more technical assistance from EasyRide for affordable public charging, scan this QR code to get started. And we will also link this achievement to your EVAL certification. So having said that, Kate, take it away.
Thank you so much, Stan. I will try to make it brief so that we do have time for questions and answers. My name is Kate Kruk. I'm the Vice President of the Electric Vehicle Association nationally and have been an EV driver since 2015. I love being able to have these conversations with folks who are looking to, as the slide said, work smarter and not necessarily harder when it comes to EV infrastructure. Something the Electric Vehicle Association has been saying since 2025 is our catchphrase now is "You can EV." And while there might be some bumps in the road, there's ways that your communities can adopt EV charging infrastructure that can be cost effective as well as the solution that you're looking for. So we talked a lot about how the different locations here today, the Isles group and the communities have adopted fast chargers as well as level 2 chargers at the workplace. But I want to make sure that folks are aware that there are software solutions that are embedded in your hardware solutions that can help you take advantage of things that may not be 100% right now, but is ready to be future focused. So software solutions, for example, energy and time limits are something that you can utilize right now when you're working with your utility companies to load management is where you can add more charging ports to a location and let the software within that charging system manage the load so you do not have to have extra capacity coming from the grid, but you're able to charge multiple vehicles. So you can potentially put out 10 charging stations in a spot that maybe is only rated for 2, but be able to power share amongst those so that everybody gets a little, or if nobody's plugged in, that one car that's charging can have all the capacity. That's something I think that the Isles group might have done in their first iteration. Kep and his team, I don't know if they remember, but I met with them back in, 2022 maybe, when they had those smaller vehicles. And again, they were trying to find solutions to use the power that they had to power the fleet that they currently had, and then obviously scale up. There's also solutions for private charging to restrict charging access for approved drivers, things that you can do, especially as a municipality, to utilize the same charging stations potentially for your fleet or your employees, and then offer it to the public later on by putting parameters around who can use the chargers when. Next slide. So how to maximize EV savings? There's a bunch of different ways right now. Unfortunately, like Lisa had said at the beginning, the federal tax credits on the vehicles themselves are no longer available, but there are different federal rebates and things that are going on, like the NEVI funding is still something that is available across the country. So there's NEVI opportunities, states and grants, as well as your individual utilities offer opportunities to reduce the costs of charging hardware and software, and in some cases, the actual vehicles themselves. Next slide. This is what I want to showcase to everybody if you get nothing from here. So Linkwell is a partner of the Electric Vehicle Association, and on their website, they have a fantastic tool. It's a rebate finder. Because while there are funding opportunities around, going and searching each individual website for funding opportunities can get a little cumbersome. So different utilities, different state locations, different policymakers, there might be different websites that have all this information. So right now on the Linkwell website, they actually aggregate all that data into this rebate finder, and you can type the type of site location you have, the type of charger you're looking for, your known utility company, if you're part of a disadvantaged community or a Justice 40 community, as well as the type of driver access and the use case for the charger. With any of those pieces of information, and you don't have to have all the answers, but most of you who are looking to implement charging infrastructure have some of those answers. You can plug that in and you can see what incentive programs are available to you at this current moment. So that website is updated, I believe, every 24 hours. So it's current. versus going to some smaller websites that might not be updated as much. We've found that this is a great tool to get you started, to see what is available to you to reduce the costs of that infrastructure. Go ahead, next slide. And I did put the link to that in the chat here. So folks that are listening, you can go click on that, bookmark it, save it for when you're ready to start your project. Couple things in the New Jersey region that I want to highlight that you could also find through that rebate finder is the It Pays to Plug In incentive, where anybody who's looking to install level 1 chargers, you can get up to $750 per port with a 5-port minimum. So again, they are expecting that you're doing multiple ports at the same time, as well as level 2 charging, which is again perfect for workplace, for shopping communities, for places where people are going to be dwelling for a long time. Get up to $4,000 per port. And that does have a 2-port minimum, so 1 dual charger. There's the Clean Fleet EV Incentive Program. Again, more charging infrastructure updates through the BPU. And then some of the utility make-ready incentives from the New Jersey area, including PSEG, New Jersey Central Power and Light, Orange and Rockland, and Atlantic City. So there are charging infrastructures there. I also want to point out, especially to municipalities and non-for-profits who might be listening today, simplify your process. Get those chargers in the ground by utilizing cooperative purchasing in your state and your region. So places like New Jersey Start, Sourcewell, TIPS, PCA, look on those websites because EV charging solutions can be done through cooperative purchasing. It often saves your community a lot of money, up to 35% off, and it's already competitively bid, which means it reduces the time it takes to get those projects approved. So if you haven't thought about it, that EV infrastructure can be done through cooperative purchasing, and if it wasn't on your radar, I hope it is today. Next slide. One of the great resources that's out there, one of our partners that's helped us put this show on today is a Sustainable New Jersey. So they actually have a purchasing resource center. So it's a great resource for you to go right to Sustainable New Jersey, and you can see folks that have been approved for contractors for charging station hardware, software, and infrastructure. Take it away, George.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. So just going to try and summarize some of the stuff that has already been said, so that way we're not really over speaking it. I think Kep did a fantastic job of explaining the process. The only thing that I'm going to note outside of his, because obviously it utilized new service, if you are considering EV chargers for an existing service, just keep in mind that it is critical to have the 12 months of utility bills available for any consultant or site visit necessary, so that way you can accurately determine your available capacity at the site. But what I'm going to go through is some quick site strategies, things to consider when you're looking at your location. Next slide, please. So first thing is ADA guidelines. Again, Kep kind of talked on a few of them, but I do want to point out an example of, doing it the right way versus doing it the wrong way. Next slide, please. So it's very important that when you're looking at ADA consideration, make sure you're doing a logical approach to it. Make sure the walkway for the station is accessible by a wheelchair. Make sure, it's aligned with the station itself, not, in between two stalls that if two vehicles were parked there, they wouldn't be able to approach it. And also make sure that the bollards are spaced out properly enough, so that way, again, a wheelchair could get between them, and also make sure that the bollards themselves are still sturdy enough and protecting a unit from vehicular damage. Next slide, please. Another thing to consider if you are in a flood zone, so think shore towns, anything close to a river, anything that could be in a FEMA flood zone, design flood elevation, base flood elevation is critical. It can have a huge impact on the cost of a project. So it's important prior to that you actually look at it, see if it would be something that you have to consider, and make sure you let any consultants know ahead of time if your site could be susceptible of flood. You can see some of the pictures here, some of the levels of extent that you have to go into in order to provide flood protection. Next slide, please. Very important, moving into something newer. The code currently doesn't state anything, but it is being revised to require fire prevention for EVs, the indoor ones. Think of garages, parking garages, or anything that's got a canopy. Small investments in prevention can significantly save the cost of fixing everything afterwards. So some key things to help with fire prevention: shunt trip breakers, heat detectors above the stations, investing in proper fire extinguishers. So there is a company, eFire X is one of the big ones out there, where they actually have actual suppressants that can fully not only take out the fire of a lithium ion battery, but also can contain it and cool it down so that way the battery is not just ongoing. Next slide, please. And I'm going to kind of pass it off for the wrap up here, and thank you for your time.
Hi, does anybody have any questions? If you do, can you please put them into the chat? I'm sorry, we started a little bit late and then we didn't finish in time. Our next webinar, we're going to do this almost monthly, except for I think August and December, is going to be on March 18th. And we're aiming to move this less from a speaker type of perspective to more of like a coalition where people can ask questions and get advice. So if you have any questions and ask them, raise your hand or put them in the chat, whichever feels best to you. We want to make this helpful. Okay, Mr. Andrews, why don't you go ahead, unmute and ask your question? Dwayne Andrews, I saw a hand up. I thought he did, but I guess not. Kamal, go ahead.
Hi. I guess this question is for the folks from Trenton there.
Yeah, Cap, why don't you put your video? Everybody can put their videos on if they want, at least our speakers.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, in terms of you creating the system that you have there, and congratulations, seems like you're doing a great job, and it's expanding, which is nice to hear. The question I had is in terms of other affordable vehicle transportation that say the city was doing, was there any competition or issues that you had to deal with in that respect in building your system?
It's a great question. I think from the beginning we were not looking to compete. We were looking to find gaps in the system and fill those as best we could. So we early on we engaged not only residents of Trenton through surveys and listening groups, but we engaged the local TMAs near us. We engaged our county planners. We engaged city personnel, and also folks at NJ Transit to make sure that we weren't overlooking anything that was already in existence, and to make sure we were meeting a need that was actually there for that first mile, last mile transport. So any major decision we've had from inception to territory expansion, to vehicle expansion, to another round of territory expansion, which we're about to take on, we have engaged those groups at a significant level, and we found that Trenton does have. I mean, Trenton does have public transit. There are New Jersey Transit buses all over Trenton, but the problem is they are really designed to take people in and out of the city. If you look at the map, they're just sort of these dendrites that sort of come into the city and go out of the city, and they're not really made for intra-city or around the city transportation. And so for folks to do that, they would have to either pay for an expensive cab or get a $2 bus ride that would take them maybe an hour and a half to get across the city with all the exchanges and that sort of thing. So we were looking to provide some right size sort of on-demand transportation to get folks to transit hubs so they could take those buses out of the city, or to the train station so they can get out of the city, that sort of thing. So we're always looking for gaps that aren't needs that aren't being met, and looking to see how we can not compete but to complement what's out there.
That's a great point. Most of our transit system, unfortunately, is geared to take people to New York. How about
Yeah.
Cap? I know you had to change your vehicles out. Can you, in a way that doesn't, denigrate the former vehicle, but can you explain why you switched? Why did you switch your vehicles? I think that could be a helpful tip for our listeners.
So we got so our coverage area is very urban. It's the city of Trenton. It's not huge. It's 8 or 9 square miles maybe, and 80 or 90,000 people. So relatively densely populated, and we chose Wave Gems, which are smaller vehicles that actually, they're actually good vehicles if you use them for the purpose for which they were intended. We grabbed them thinking, hey, they look great. You can't go more than 30 miles per hour in the city of Trenton anyway. This will be fine. We probably didn't do our due diligence thinking about what deep summer and deep winter rides would be like in these not well insulated or heated or cooled vehicles. We didn't consider the fact that they're low speed vehicles, so go on they couldn't go on some of these major roads that bisect the city, and so we essentially didn't have good access to direct transportation to get people around the city. And we were operating them all day for 12 hours at a time, and they just in the cold, certainly they didn't have the battery capacity for that. So you'll see those kind of vehicles often used like in shore communities, like toting people up and down the boardwalk. They're great for stuff like that. They're fun. They're easy on, easy off. Um, but we needed something more robust, like you might drive if you were taking a road trip somewhere. That's something that had heat and AC and something that could hit the highway speeds and had a good battery range. So we use Kia Niro EVs, which we find to be very economical, but still have a solid battery range and a solid comfort level and safety features for our customer and rider experience, as well as for e-transit passenger vans for some larger events.
Mhm. Could you
So
put
that was sort of we learned that lesson the hard way. We committed to vehicles that we probably didn't do enough research on, and that's a lesson learned that you really need to know who you're taking and where and when, and that really helps sort of should inform the decision that you make on kind of vehicles you use.
Kepner, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Okay. You noted that there's a $2 fare. Is it subsidized? Like, because I mean, obviously that's pretty reasonable.
Oh yeah. Yes, there is absolutely subsidized. There's no way. I mean, our cost per ride is more like $17 or $18 per passenger, which is really what the market rate is, which is what you'll pay for an Uber or Lyft through the city, generally speaking. So we are subsidized by the state, largely speaking. We're subsidized by the DEP and the DOT, and a little bit by the DOL as well, through Mercer County. And so fares make up a small part of our income. It's more about managing demand than it is about gaining access to money. We are working on ways to become more self-sustainable financially. So we're researching. We're looking at contracted rides with local businesses and nonprofits to provide contracted transportation, as well as advertising within our app and on our vehicles, and fares to sort of close that gap.
I believe I did reach out and just
Anyone else have a question? How about anybody else has? Oops. If nobody else has any burning questions, we will aim to share the slides and the video later this week. We really thank you for joining us. We're sorry our time was so tight today, but we just have all these wonderful speakers who are very happy to speak. So we're going to be working on how we can get more time for the group to kind of turn this more into really an interactive time. And we really hope that you could also, if you have some ideas on ways that or certain burning questions, please put them in the chat before you take off, because it helps us, as we're searching for different speakers or coming up with, another technical question. It helps us to know what you are really concerned about. But we are going to be doing this every month, so I hope that this will be helpful for you all. And I just want to give a special thank you to Kep, as well as a thank you to Stan, George, Sean, and Kate for joining us here today. And we look forward to really helping New Jersey become EV savvy, friendly, and with lots and lots of access for people who don't have EV chargers. So thank you.